Blessings, family. Blessings, everyone. Um, Today is a hard day for me. Um, Wanted to come on today and share my story, a part of my journey. It's been hard. Um, my fourth miscarriage. This time it was with twins. So, have you ever been in a situation where you wanted something, like you wanted to be a mom, or you wanted to be a dancer, whatever it was your heart desire was? Mine was a desire to be a mom. And growing up, it was like, I'm going to have a husband and I'm going to have children and I'm going to be the best mom that I can be, just from what I experienced growing up. I wanted to be able to care for my children, spend time with them, love on them. And it was a time in my past where I thought I couldn't have children. If I had to label this thing, it would be breaking the silence of the lost. When God told me to share my story, I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. It's so much. But what I'm dealing with now is what needs to be shared. Dealing with heartbreak, agony, and pain. But I'm still trying to hold on to my faith. I'm still believing the promises of God. This walk is not easy. I won't even get on here and tell anybody that it'd be easy. You say yes to God and you don't even know what the next step is going to be. He begins to test you. And you feel like you're going through, like you feel crazy as hell. Like, what? How can I even still move forward when you're going through so much trials and tribulations? But he never said it was going to be easy. But he also said he'd never leave you nor forsake you. And in as much as I may be going through, he's still here for me. He's standing with me and not against me. So, about 2 years ago, before I got married, I had never, ever been pregnant before. And I'm 37 now, so, excuse me, this had to happen. 35 going on 36 possible. I was going through the deliverance process, and still am. I'm a work in progress, but I wanted to stop having sex with my now husband, and there was some sacrifices that needed to be made, and one of them was that, and before that it was like I was willing, I had made my husband my God before my husband. But I remember praying to God one day. I mean, for years I prayed, years and years, that I will be able to have a child. And I thought that I couldn't have kids. I thought that I was going, I didn't know, and one year God spoke to me and he said that I will have a child. And I held on to that. I believed. I'm in my 30s, never been pregnant, had a couple of scares, but so back in 2019, when I was dealing with my husband, well, he wasn't my husband yet. I was getting out of a divorce. I was going through a divorce process, and when God may have shared with me that my husband that is now my husband was my husband, I may have felt like, is it true? Because I had got to a point where I got tired of waiting. And I married the guy to stay in the country, and I tried to make something out of nothing, and I knew that relationship was done because I wasn't in love with him. It was using him as a coping mechanism. I tried to stand on my own, lean on my own understanding, and I tried to heal the best way I knew how to heal. And I trust God to deliver me. But at that moment of time in my life, I was choosing my way to deliver me. And as I began to work on the inner self and started to work on my healing and my deliverance with my spiritual leaders, the angels that are in my life that I'm connected to, I don't know where I would be without them. I'm so grateful for my Royal Claw family and my spiritual moms and my spiritual dad and leaders that are in my life that was concerned about me and my soul to work on my healing and deliverance, because I may not even be here sharing my story right now if it had not been for some sort of deliverance. And after I came out of that divorce in 2020, it was on my now husband's birthday, and that was the first sign for me that God made shared that this was my husband. And I continue to go. And 2020 had came and went pretty much. And I began to understand the meaning of really going through the healing and deliverance process of the grief. And boy, did I go through. I really went through that year, 2020, 2021. And I had to make some changes in my life. I had to make some huge changes in my life. And in 2022, I began to plead with God and ask Him to change my heart in the way that things were going in my life. I just came to a crossroad and I was like, God, I'm ready to surrender it all. And I just couldn't do it no more. My relationship with my now husband was a mess. We was going through um, and prices and lessons and teachings, and these was my choices that I made. So I began to go through. Um, you know, January of 2022. Prior to that, I remember praying to God. One of my sisters in Christ may have gotten pregnant. I mean, at this time in my church, it was like a few women, few of my sisters had got pregnant. It was like a wave. And I remember praying to God and saying, God, help me. I only wanted to be pregnant by my husband. I didn't want to have kids out of wedlock. And I said, God, if you can see when you're ready, allow me not to be barren and allow me to, open up my womb when you see fit, but at the same time, close me off until I'm ready, close me off, meaning I wanted to stop having sex. So I asked God to close me off from that, open up my womb and show me that this is my husband. If you see fit. In January of 22, January 26th, I believe, yes, of 22, I first found out that I was pregnant. And I was so excited, I was even excited to share, and I was so early and not being considerate of others who may have been married and couldn't get pregnant. And my world shattered when right after I thought that I was pregnant, I began to bleed. And I went through the worst pain imaginable. And I knew that this wasn't going to be healthy. And, everyone telling me, like, it's okay to bleed in the beginning of your pregnancy, but something didn't feel right. Like, it was like I was feeling everything inside of my body, like everything, like every ache, every pain. I was in excruciating pain, and come to find out it was an ectopic pregnancy. And the baby was in my left tube, and they, after going to 3 different hospitals, they finally, the last hospital finally acknowledged that it was an ectopic pregnancy. Lord, I was bleeding, and it was hard. It was very hard, and it was emotional, and I was in so much pain. And, these were the choices that I made and the consequences that I faced. I couldn't be mad at God, even though I was angry and I was upset, but I realized that He had given me what I may have asked. That helped me to straighten up myself. I stopped having sex with my husband after that. Well, he's my husband now, but I stopped having sex with him. I was too afraid, the fear of God, not afraid of God, but the fear of what can happen with my choices, of disowning my father, letting him down, just disappointment. I didn't want to disappoint the father anymore. And so I remember bleeding, and I remember laying in the bed, and I was talking to some of the spiritual leaders, and they was helping me through the process, and encouraging me and helping me. And You know, I was on a chat like all day chatting, like, and when I had it before, I didn't take heed to it. I took the grace for granted. And now I'm in a position that I needed this. You know, I had to go, something like this had to happen for me to like run even closer to God, for me to want to work out the healing and deliverance process. Like, I didn't want to be delivered like more than my ever after going through this situation in my life. You know, feeling like I was going to die, you know, just bleeding and, you know, not knowing what's going on. And, you know, my husband saying, wait, and, you know, my leaders wait it out, wait on God. And I felt like I was dying, you know, like in the bed, and I'm in excruciating pain, and I didn't know. And one day I was talking to a sister, and she was praying with me, and I began to speak in tongues, and, you know, I was a little afraid. I was holding back, and then I remember breaking, and I remember crying out hysterically to God. You know, I remember like just in excruciating tears, and I was laying in a bed, and I was having the heating pad over my back. You know, it was easing the pain, and I was taking Tylenol like left and right. And I remember getting on my knees, and as I began to get on my knees, I saw the feet of Jesus, and I seen this white cloth go over me, and he said that this is the garment of humility. And I began to cry and weep, and I was on my knees for hours, and I didn't understand. And in the mix of my disobedience and things that, like, my nails and feet had got infected, and I was so busy trying to hide, you know, the dirt, that I had got these nails to cover up the filth and the sin that I was in. And they looked like bubble nails. I had no idea. So even in the mix of your situation, God still will cover you, even in your mess, even when you don't deserve it, because his love is that strong. And I remember my coworkers saying, oh yeah, I got sisters, them are bubble nails. And I'm like, I never heard of it, but I knew that God was trying to cover me. And at that moment, that day, going through a miscarriage, and who knows, like, it wasn't just a regular miscarriage, it was an ectopic pregnancy. More than anything, most people know that an ectopic pregnancy is either given medication or you're getting a surgery. Well, I didn't have to go through that. I went through excruciating pain, but I didn't go through that. Then I thank God for that. I didn't have to have surgery. I didn't have to take no medication. You know, by the grace of God, it began to dissolve and naturally just come out my body. And so even though I was filled, God didn't allow death to come in my body, or, you know, for the enemy to take me out. No, but this is something I had to go through not to do it again, you know. And without that pain and without feeling what I felt, I probably would have felt like it was okay to continue to live in sin, be in sin, and continue to do sinful things when it's not. God came here to give us a process to do things the correct way, a easier and better and healthy way. But I was so hooked on doing the things that I've done in my past that only brought me hurt and pain and destruction. And then when things doesn't go my way, I blame others or I blame God. But no, I have to take responsibility for my own actions and go through and accept, you know. And accepting is the hardest part. You know, I remember my spiritual mom would share the 3 A's. Awareness, acceptance, and taking action. First, you are made aware of your irresponsibilities and the problem or the cause or, the situation. But then you have to accept, I did wrong. I messed up. I was walking in sin. I was walking in pride. I was walking in selfishness, anger. I made these decisions. I was leaning on my own understanding. Like, once you accept, then you take actions. God begins to pour into you a different way to do things, and then you apply that to your life if you choose. But each day is a choice. You gotta choose who you're gonna serve. And there was times in my life that I didn't always serve God. I loved him, but I had one foot in and one foot out. And my faith was weary. It was, I'd rather do it myself. I didn't have enough faith and enough belief that he can do it for me, And after the garment of humility that I was covered with, I took off my nails and I just began to walk, and I started to really work on the inner side of me, allowing God to get out the junk, the hurt, the past, the things that I faced from my past, the hurt. I was 7 years old when I was sexually molested by my cousin, feeling the hurt and abandoned from my father and my mom, my siblings, just feeling lost, and it feeling like I was left and cast out, which led me to use unhealthy habits to cover me, because I didn't want to share, and I didn't want to look vulnerable, and I didn't want to look crazy to the world, or to others around me. So I was a liar. I was a manipulator, a thief, and, conniving, selfish, prideful, angry person, because of this hurt that I was holding on. I had a lot of unforgiveness and bitterness in my heart. I used rather sexual mechanism to cover the pain, or smoking weed, or going to get a drink, or lies, whatever it may have been, and I didn't realize how much I needed deliverance in order for me to see the ugly side of myself that I didn't want to anymore. And all of that caused me to make some bad decisions in my life. And today, I choose to make the right decisions today. And I'm quite sure there's more prices and lessons and teachings. But today, I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be healed, and I want to be made whole, And so I have to face some hard situations, And it's crazy because I wanted to be a mom. And, sometimes I get angry and frustrated. Like, it's people out here who don't even care enough to pay attention to their children and everything else. But yet, I want to be a mom, and I'm struggling with carrying a baby, having to go through loss after loss and loss, and it's hurting, and it looks crazy. Like, God, how can I continue to still serve him? How can I continue to walk with him after all of this? Because he's merciful, because he's good, because his promises are yes and amen, because he's faithful and just, and because he said that he'll never leave me nor forsake me, and he loved me before I was even in my mother's womb. Like, sometimes I don't even recognize myself, because there was times in my life where I would even walk away. Like, this is too hard for me. Like, nah, I'm gonna go back to my old ways. But there's no turning back. Faith got me to Texas. God told me to go, and I left. Me and my husband, we got up and left. And It's nothing for up from here, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to go through trials and tribulations. He never said that. He said, even in trials and tribulations, count it all joy. And so sometimes I'm not strong. I reach out, I seek help. But even in those moments, he said, in your weakness, my strength is made strong. And so when I'm feeling weak, God's strength is made strong inside of me, because it's the greater one that is inside of me that's in the world. And so here I am, my first miscarriage and ectopic pregnancy. And I began to do the work. Me and my now husband had to separate. One of my spiritual leaders, spiritual mom, my angel, ended up moving in with me, with us, to help us along the process, to bring perspectives and help us grow. It got to a point where I even told him that I didn't want to be with him anymore unless he was going to make me an honest woman. He may have moved out, and I just knew that I never wanted to go through that process again. I never wanted to be in that place again of letting my dad down, or let alone making these decisions that was going to cause me more pain, more hurt than good, And so he moved out for a period of time, and he still came around and helped out, and made sure that he helped with the bills, and cut the grass, like little things like that. But I had to make a decision. I had to make up in my mind, like, who I was going to serve and who I was choosing. And I choose God over anything today. I didn't want to make things, I didn't want to make things worse. I wanted to do the right thing, and I trust God, along the way to help me, and then in that July, me and my husband had got married at the courts, and we ended up, he moved back in the house, and it was a little process. And by that November, I was pregnant again. And I was so much in fear, because I'm like, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to go through the loss again. And a part of me knew that I wasn't going to have the baby. And it hurted. It hurted. But I said, God, if this baby is not going to make it fully, don't let me go through the same pain that I went before. The good thing about God is that He is faithful, and He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. With the first baby, it was a girl. God allowed me to see my daughter in my dreams, which was what I held on to. And I remember sharing this story with a mother that was in the airport, and she had lost her daughter to an illness. And she said, continue to share your story, because you never know who is going to bless. With my second child, when I was pregnant, it was a boy. My son came to me in the form of a sheep in my dreams. I'm just loving how Dad does things. Like, he's so amazing. Even before I knew I was pregnant, he brought my son to me as a sheep. And when I let my son go, it was others around in the dream, and he only turned into a boy for me. And it was a whole blessing, you know. But I didn't go through the same pain. You know, the first time that I was pregnant, I bled for like a month and some change and was in excruciating pain and didn't know. But the second time, you know, it was hard. It hurted. But I think I bled maybe 4 or 5 days. And that was it, you know. I just trust God and I just thank him for everything. And then now we are preparing for the wedding ceremony, right? In this year, 2023. And I continue on with the process even after the second loss. It was hurting. It was hard. I had to get on the chat and I had to talk to, on the phone with a leader, that helped me through the process and confess how I was really feeling. I had to be truthful about what I was feeling. And I couldn't sugarcoat it. And I was angry at God. I was mad as hell. Like now I'm married. What the hell, But I got to think about the decisions and choices that I made prior to wanting to get healed and delivered and do things right, And so for everything that we do, there's always a consequence behind it. It's always a price, long suffering for Christ, it comes with a price. So, when you say yes, you don't know what you're saying yes to. You don't even know what God is going to put you through. But he said, take up my cross and follow me. That's what he says. Leave everything else behind and take up your cross and follow him. And it's not going to be easy. It is not. Some days I'm like, I feel like Job, I feel crazy as hell. Like, what am I doing? What have I done? I just want to make it right. And it don't happen like that. It does not happen that easy. All the hurt and pain that we may have caused him. God is next to the brokenhearted, But I had to think about the disappointment that I caused him. And how many times he may have helped and tried to stop me by sending a message through someone. Because that's how God works. He works through people. A song. A stranger. Just never know. And I was in a lot of pain. Made it through. Continued to go forward. Then it was time for our wedding ceremony. And I didn't include God in the beginning. I wanted to have this grand wedding because when I was a child, I was Cinderella, And I was doing it for others. I wanted to get the glory out of it. I wanted to say, I did that. Me and my husband did that. I didn't want to say, God did it. And the place that I wanted to give it at, by the time it came, they didn't have enough money for it. But I choose to believe that God was still going to make it happen. And that he did. It didn't look like it. The money wasn't coming. I was sending my spiritual mom money to put up. I didn't know what it was for. I just knew that I wanted to save. I had family coming from all over. My spiritual mom, she was coming from Tennessee. My aunts, her sisters was coming from New York, it was family that was there, and friends and loved ones that wanted to see us. And at the last minute, we had to change things. And I could have gave up, and I'm like, the place that the venue place we was going to give it at, didn't even want us to lose the money. They was trying to work with us, but it still wasn't enough because God wanted it His way. So my spiritual pops, my apostle, he said, we can give it at the church. We can find another place, So I said, okay. So we was prepared to give it at the church, and reached out to one of my other moms of the church, and she began to share, see, the steps of the righteous man is order, and if you follow the instruction, God will lead you in a path of righteousness. But it's when we deviate that we find ourselves in a ditch. We find ourselves in a place of torment. We find ourselves in a place of pain and suffering because we didn't want to follow what the instructions. And sometimes the instructions can be as simple, and sometimes they may be hard. But how much do you want it? So I have to always ask myself that. And so I reached out and found out that one of the sisters at the church owned the venue. And I called her, and it was around Mother's Day. My wedding was May 20th. And it was around Mother's Day, so that means it was less than a week or so away. And just so happened, she had the date. Later on, I found out through another sister that the same sister who venue we had it at was praying for my husband and I. Then later on, found out through the sister who had the venue that someone canceled right before I called because that date was actually taken. My God. Whew. God did it. And then we had to find the food, and it was just like a mess. It was like crazy, It was crazy. It was so crazy and ironic, but we found the people for the food. The place, we didn't have to set up. She set everything up. I mean, God is so good, Then the guys, some of their tuxedos was a mess. I was going through my in-laws, I ain't gonna say all of them, but my mother-in-law, text me that morning of the wedding or the day before, and was coming at me crazy. Dealing with some issues that my father was saying to me. Man, I was like going through, but you know what? I was like, I couldn't even, God had did something miraculous, and yet the enemy was still coming. I had to overcome it, I had messed up. I had to accept that I had messed up. I messed up. And God still honored, That day I received $1,000. My father began to bless me, and we stuff like my dress wasn't even paid for, finished paying for. It was just a lot, but at the last minute, the last hour, God began to show up and show out in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. Shete masokia Woo! He's wonderful. He's wonderful. And you know, it was a lot, and I had to realize that my decisions, I didn't care if I looked it away anymore. I didn't care if people talked about me. I didn't care. I was getting married. My spiritual father, my apostle, Moses, Mama Angel, being connected to the favor, you know. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. Your presence, Lord. When you think about his goodness, you know, when you think about his goodness, he's bigger than any problem, any situation. He's bigger than anything you can even imagine. You just got to trust and hold on and believe. And the wedding turned out so beautiful. I left my reception dress, my veil. Guess what? My father was there. He walked me down the aisle. And I had this smile on my face because I was just grateful. I was grateful. I couldn't let the focus. It was like it looked out of order, but you didn't even know. It was a lot going on behind the scenes. But I just chose to continue to go. Do it by faith. And I celebrated and I married my love. I married the man that I've chosen, that God has chosen. And those who were there, they all celebrated because my sisters and brothers, my friends, my family, my in-laws enjoyed the moment in time and the festivities. And I still think about that. After the wedding, we got the message for us to move to Texas. Follow the instructions. Been living in Texas since August. Oh, it's not easy. You know, still struggling with making sure that the bills is on time and keeping up. And, 2 months I had to face not paying the rent on time. I mean, moving is already hard. Finding a job and making sure that it's going to cover. It's like, God, you told me to do this and I'm here, but yet I'm still going through. What's going on? That's my thoughts. But I'm still alive. I remember when, before leaving from Jersey to Texas, my rent was, I was backed up in bills, $3,000 on each bill. And I had family living with me at the time. But no light, we didn't run out of food, no water, nothing got cut off. Nothing. And as I began to work the process and began to follow the instructions and that was given to me, before you know it, I was at zero balance. I was at zero balance pretty much on every bill. And then I started to receive increase on the light bill. And it was like we was receiving extra credit on it. And God is just so good. Even when we moved out here to Texas, the instruction may have been find a place that was closer to the job, because that's something that me and my husband struggled with. We struggled with finding, like when we was back in Jersey, sometimes we had one car, sometimes we had both cars, or if we didn't have a car, we lived far. And when we got the message to, find a place that was closer to the job, it was like God had already prepared it for us. I began to do the search. And as I began to do the research, I found the place, and the young lady last name was Young. And that's, my spiritual mom, the one that I met that connected me to the favor, the one that paved the way for me, before I met my spiritual father and, my spiritual mom. I'm just so grateful for these people, for these gifts that God has given me in my life, being connected to the favor of God. Woo! Yes, Lord. Listen, this is not a game. It's serious. So, got the place in Texas. Definitely an upgrade. 2-bedroom, 2 baths. Beautiful neighborhood, everything. But yet, there's still trials and tribulations, and there's still struggles, and there's still moments where I question myself and question, like, what did I did? Like, my husband, this is his first time leaving his family. I'm from North Jersey, and I moved to South Jersey. God removed me to South Jersey, and I was out there by myself. So I was already away from my family. God already has separated me from my family. But for my husband, we done moved miles and miles away. And it was just us. The word was a message that God said, after the wedding, prepare for the baby. Me and my husband got to Texas in August. And we was able to spend time with each other. And I recently, in September, found out that I was pregnant. So excited. But still going through, just had really started work. My husband, it was a little struggle for him in the beginning, but then God began to bless him with a job. And, then his job went on strike. So it was, listen, the first month, one of my spiritual aunts was blessed us to help us, for the payment, and even for the wedding. We received a cash app from one of my spiritual aunts. My Mama Angel's sister is like reached out and cashed at me $1,000. Like, like, what? That don't just happen like that, Just thinking about how good God is, we received the same help in September when we first, so we wasn't late in September, but October and November, yeah, still waiting on God. And everything was going good. I was so scared this time that I was pregnant. I'm like, oh my God, I reached out to my mom Angel and I said, Mom, I think I'm pregnant. I'm late. And, I had in my dream, the Holy Spirit let me know that I was pregnant. And she may have gotten the same dream. And it was like, wow, because I was like, God, send me a confirmation. And she told me. And I was so blessed by it. I was so blessed by it, And the first time we go to the doctor, I was a little nervous because I'm like, oh man, I was just nervous. I was nervous. And then they was like, I was too early to see anything. So I was like, okay. We went back the second time and me and my husband heard the heartbeat. Oh my God. It was breathtaking. But then we got the news that it may have been an ectopic pregnancy. I was feeling sad and I was feeling down. And I'm like, but I believe the word. I heard my baby. I saw my baby for the first time because the first 2 times I never even made it to that part to even see them. I lost the babies before. And so to be able to go into the emergency to the doctor and see the baby on a screen and hear the heartbeat, it just blessed me. And the heartbeat was so strong. It was at 147. And I was like, oh my God, God is so amazing. Got an ultrasound and it was beautiful. But me and my husband wanted a second opinion. So we go get a second opinion. And when I get the second opinion, they see the baby in the uterus, but they never say anything about ectopic pregnancy. But now they don't hear the baby heartbeat. So I'm discouraged, but I see my baby so clear. And I began to talk to her and then share my story. And the doctor was in tears. She even hugged me, so much compassion compared to the other doctors. The other doctors was like very insensitive and things like that. And this doctor was very sensitive. And, she just kept on saying, God is sovereign. God is sovereign. And we're going to wait another week. So I said, okay, no problem. This past Thursday, I began to see bleeding and it changed from just the spotting. And me and my husband goes into the emergency room and, they then tell us, hey, you had a ectopic pregnancy, meaning that one baby was in the uterus and one was outside of the uterus. And, I had lost the first one, maybe a week or 2 prior. And so I was like shooken up. And I still was in a place of like, God, I believe you. It hurted. It hurted and it was like crazy to even bear. And they told me like, you're going to have to get surgery. And I was trying to explain to them like, I want to wait, because I'm believing that the first time that I had an ectopic pregnancy, it passed through. And I'm believing that God would do the same thing, I didn't want to be cut on, to be honest. I didn't want to have to go through that surgery. But, I talked to my husband about it. I talked to my leaders about it. They said the doctor is concerned if I don't see no bleeding or anything like that, then, consider getting the surgery to have it removed. I said, that's exactly what me and my husband talked about, I just had made up in my mind like, hey, I may not want it. I prayed and I talked to God and I said, I may not want this. But if this the only way out, then I just have to choose to do it, And I remember talking to the doctors and I'm telling him, and he was like, ectopic pregnancy, you normally got to get a surgery. You couldn't have. I said, sir, I had an ectopic pregnancy last year. And so the nurse, like, that don't normally happen. You know, you either get medication or you got to get surgery. That must have been a miracle. And she began to look up. And she was looking at my records and she was like, oh, you had an ectopic pregnancy. It was on the left side. And I was looking at them because I was like, I'm trying to tell them that I had one. And if anyone knows their body, is me. You know, I've been through this, so I know what could or couldn't happen. Like, understand the doctor's got to let you know. So, you know, they was dealing with a lot of fear, some of it concern. Then a nurse said, well, if you pass out in a parking lot, then you know that that's a sign from God for you to get the surgery. Like, what? Why would you even say something like that? My husband said, amen. And we left it like that. We left the hospital. And then, you know, and my husband just like took every day, every moment. He took off from work. He was there. He consulted me. He was very supportive. It was definitely better than the first 2 times. You know, he was emotional support. Like, he just held me and just let me know that I wasn't alone, you know. And I knew that that was the Father, you know, working through him, just showing me like, hey, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I still love you. This is a part of my story and my journey. I'm going to help so many other women to have faith and hold on, even if they're experiencing these situations, you know. And one of these days, y'all going to hear my next story is that I done had my baby and God kept his promises to me, you know, and she or he or them is going to be on a screen with me, because that's how faithful God is. And I just choose to accept today. I choose to accept the things that I cannot change and to change the things that I can change, you know. Acceptance is the hardest part. And I'm still believing God. You know, the next day there was a training. On Friday, we found out Thursday about the baby, and on Friday, and I consulted with my husband, but like, babe, can I go to church? You know, I mean, really wasn't church, but it was more training under Apostle Ferguson, and I'm a part of his ministry, and I'm grateful to be in Texas because I was able to go, and I was in there going through all of this. One of the sisters knew about it and she hugged me, and you know, we bear witness. And I was in there and I was just serving God, and I felt crazy and I felt like, what the heck am I doing, you know? But I'm holding on to the Him because it's all I have, you know. I tried it my way. I've done it my way for so long, but today I choose to do it God's way. Today I choose to look crazy for Christ. I choose to hold on to my faith. I choose to keep going even in the midst of the trials and tribulations. I continue to serve Him because in the mix of everything, when I look back over my life, how much He done. If He never do anything else, He done enough, because He gave His life up for me so that way I may live and have a better life that I can overcome. If He beat death, what more can I do? What more? And I choose to serve God even in my trials and tribulations. So today was a little hard for me, you know, still going through the process of the miscarriage. It was very hard. It's gonna be, it's day by day it gets easier. And I was told to share my story. A couple of days ago, the Lord spoke to me, may have spoke to me and said, share your story. And I didn't know how or when or what it was going to look like. But today I got the courage up and the strength. And even through the pain, even through the tears, I put on worship music and I begin to just talk. I begin to talk and share my life, my story of what I may be facing and what I'm going through now. And in hopes that if there's other women out there that are facing loss or any discouragement or feeling like, should I still serve God in the midst of your troubles? Yes, you should. I am a living witness and living proof of things God can do. And even in the mix, God is still there. He is still the same God yesterday, today, and forever. I may have to go back to the doctor on the 8th to find out if the baby passed through. Well, the second baby passed through, or if I got to get surgery. So I would definitely be coming back to share more. But this is where I'm at now, and I'm grateful to have a husband that is supportive. I'm grateful to have a heavenly Father that loves me no matter what the situation is. And I'm grateful to have family, my leaders, my supporters, those that's in my corner to help me get through this hard time in this process. And I know that I'm loved and I'm accepted. And even though I'm facing an unbearable moment, God is still the head of my life. And I choose to continue to follow after him, no matter what it looks like. Because see, if I continue to pay attention to the situation, then I'm going to drown and I'm going to swallow, and then the enemy going to try to swallow me up and I'm going to fall. I refuse to fall. I refuse to go back into that mindset of the unknown or depressed. I even reached out to receive help, outside of the help that I already have. Looking forward to going to some support groups of miscarriages and loss. It's not easy, but the Father has given other options and other ways for you to receive that support. You just have to reach out. Don't do it alone, because you can't. I love you guys, and until next time, this is my story. Breaking the silence of the loss. Sharing the good, the bad, and the indifference. But God is faithful and he is just. And please share this story, and I pray that it'll help someone to stand even in the mix of your troubles or the mix of the fire. Peace out. Blessings, everyone. Worship with me. I love you all.